Chosen one, God says, your pain was not wasted. I am preparing something greater. Before you leave this video, give me a few minutes. Not because I want to convince you that everything will magically become perfect overnight. I want you to stay because there is something you may have forgotten. While trying to survive the season you are in, you are still here. After everything that disappointed you, after every door that closed, after every person who walked away, after every night when you wondered how you were going to keep going, you are still here. And maybe you have been so focused on what went wrong that you have forgotten to notice what your survival says about you. There were moments when you thought you were finished. You thought you had reached your limit. You thought there was no way you could carry another problem, another disappointment, another unanswered prayer. Yet, somehow, you woke up the next morning. You got out of bed. You went to work. You took care of your responsibilities. You smiled when you didn't feel like smiling. You answered people while carrying questions you couldn't answer for yourself. And nobody knew how much effort it took. That is why I want to speak directly to the part of you that feels tired. The part that has been asking, God, when is this going to change? The part that wonders why other people seem to be moving forward while you are still waiting. The part that has prayed the same prayer so many times that you almost stopped expecting an answer. Listen carefully. Your waiting season is not proof that you have been forgotten. Sometimes you are standing in the middle of a chapter that makes no sense because you are trying to understand it before it is finished. You are judging the story while you are still inside the middle. And the middle of a story rarely looks beautiful. There are moments when the main character loses everything. There are moments when the door closes. There are moments when the answer seems farther away than ever. But that does not mean the story is over. It means you have not reached the part where everything begins to connect. And, chosen one, there are things happening in your life right now that you cannot see yet. Not everything happening beneath the surface is visible from where you are standing. Think about a seed buried beneath the ground. If you looked at the soil from above, you might conclude that nothing is happening. No leaves, no flowers, no evidence, just dirt. But underneath that quiet surface, roots are developing. Something is preparing to break through. The seed does not look impressive during that stage, but the hidden work is necessary. Your life may feel like that right now. Quiet, slow, uncertain. You may be looking around asking, where is the change? But perhaps the question is not whether something is happening. Perhaps the question is whether you can trust the process while you cannot see it. Because some of the most important changes in your life will begin internally before they become visible externally. Your mindset changes first. Your standards change first. Your confidence changes first. Your understanding changes first. Your ability to say no changes first. Your relationship with yourself changes first. And then, eventually, your circumstances begin to reflect the person you have become. That is why you cannot measure your progress only by what you can see. You may think you are standing still, but look closer. You are not the same person who entered this season. You have learned things pain could teach you that comfort never could. You have discovered who genuinely cares about you. You have learned how quickly certain people disappear when you stop being useful to them. You have learned that some opportunities are not blessings just because they look attractive. You have learned that peace is more valuable than attention. You have learned that being alone is sometimes healthier than being surrounded by people who constantly make you question your worth. And perhaps most importantly, you have learned that you can survive disappointment. That lesson is bigger than you realize, because the person you were before the storm thought the storm would destroy you. The person you are now knows better. You have evidence. You survived the last one, and the one before that, and the one before that. So when fear tells you, you won't make it through this, you can answer with your own history. I've been here before, and I'm still standing. That does not mean you should ignore your problems. It means you should stop allowing your problems to define the limits of your future. There is a difference. You can acknowledge what hurts without believing that pain will last forever. You can admit that you are tired without deciding that you are defeated. You can cry without believing that your tears mean you have lost your faith. You can have questions and still have trust. You can be afraid and still move forward. Faith does not mean you never feel uncertainty. Faith means uncertainty does not get the final word. And maybe that is what God has been teaching you. Not how to avoid every storm, but how to stop becoming the storm, because there was a time when every problem entered your mind and stayed there all day. Someone said something negative, and you replayed it for hours. Someone rejected you, and you began questioning yourself. A financial problem appeared, and suddenly you imagined the worst possible future. A relationship ended, and you assumed you would never find happiness again. One disappointment became a prediction. One mistake became an identity. One difficult season became, "This is just my life." But that is not truth. That is fear trying to turn a moment into a permanent story. Your current situation is information. It is not your identity. Your bank account is not your identity. Your relationship status is not your identity. Your job title is not your identity. Your past is not your identity. Your mistakes are not your identity. And the opinion of someone who did not recognize your value is certainly not your identity. You need to understand that, because some of you have been allowing temporary circumstances to make permanent decisions about your self-worth. Stop. Your story is bigger than the chapter you are reading. There is another reason this season has felt so difficult. You have been trying to carry tomorrow with today's strength. You are worrying about problems that have not happened. You are creating conversations that have not occurred. You are imagining rejection before anyone has rejected you. You are worrying about money you haven't lost. You are grieving futures that have never existed. And all of this is exhausting. You cannot experience today's blessings while mentally living in tomorrow's disasters. Come back to today. What is actually happening right now? Are you breathing? Are you here? Do you have another opportunity to make a different decision? Then you have something to work with. You do not need to solve your entire future tonight. You need to take care of the next step. That is how people rebuild their lives. One decision, one morning, One conversation, one boundary, one prayer, one brave action at a time. You have been asking for a miracle while overlooking the small steps that could prepare you to receive what you are praying for. Sometimes the answer begins with discipline. Sometimes it begins with letting go. Sometimes it begins with apologizing. Sometimes it begins with saying no. Sometimes it begins with applying for the job. Sometimes it begins with taking care of your body. Sometimes it begins with getting serious about your finances. Sometimes it begins with admitting that a relationship is hurting you. And sometimes it begins with resting. Not everything needs to be fought. Not everything needs to be fixed tonight. Some things need to be surrendered. You have been holding on to certain situations because you are afraid that releasing them means giving up. But letting go is not always giving up. Sometimes letting go is making room. Think about your hands. If you are holding tightly to something you have already lost, your hands are unavailable for anything new. You cannot receive while refusing to release. You cannot build a new chapter while constantly rereading the old one. You cannot keep asking for peace while repeatedly returning to the things that disturb it. And I know this is difficult because some of you are holding on to people who already made their decision. You are holding on to conversations that ended months ago. You are holding on to versions of yourself that no longer exist. You are holding on to the belief that if you just explain yourself one more time, someone will finally understand. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But your healing cannot depend on another person's understanding. Sometimes closure is not something someone gives you. Sometimes closure is something you decide. You decide that you have learned enough. You decide that you will not keep reopening the same wound. You decide that you deserve relationships where communication does not feel like begging. You decide that peace is no longer negotiable. That decision may hurt, but it can also set you free. And chosen one, there is another lesson your waiting season has been teaching you. Not every closed door was a rejection. Some doors closed because they were leading you somewhere you were not supposed to stay. You were disappointed because you saw the opportunity. God saw the consequences. You saw the relationship. God saw what it could become. You saw the money. God saw what it could cost you. You saw the position. God saw the person you might become if you remained there too. We rarely have enough information to understand every closed door when it happens. That is why some endings hurt so much. You do not know what you are being protected from. You only know what you lost. But years later, you may look back and realize that the thing you once begged to keep was the very thing you needed to lose. There are people listening right now who once cried over something that they would never accept today. You thought losing it was the worst thing that could happen. Now you understand. You were being redirected. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not comfortably. But eventually. And that is why you should be careful about calling a delay a denial. Sometimes timing matters. A fruit picked too early is not ready. A building constructed without a foundation may look impressive until the first storm. A person given an opportunity before they are prepared may sabotage the very blessing they prayed for. Preparation can feel like punishment when you do not understand what you are being prepared for. You might be asking, "Why am I still here?" And the answer may be, because you are still becoming. There are lessons you cannot skip. There are emotional patterns you cannot carry into your next chapter. There are habits that have to die before your new life can become sustainable. You cannot ask for a healthier relationship while refusing to become emotionally healthy. You cannot ask for financial increase while refusing to learn financial discipline. You cannot ask for peace while feeding every argument. You cannot ask for confidence while constantly speaking against yourself. The next version of your life may require a different version of you. And that is not an insult. It is an invitation. Grow, learn, heal, become wiser, become calmer, become more disciplined, become more selective about who gets access to you. Become comfortable walking away from what once controlled you, because there is a future version of you who will thank you for what you are doing right now. That future version will look back at this difficult season differently. They will say, "I didn't understand it then, but now I see why I had to grow." And maybe that is the perspective you need today. Stop asking only, "When will this end?" Start asking, "What is this season teaching me?" That question changes everything, because when you find the lesson, pain begins to become wisdom. When you find the wisdom, you stop repeating the pattern. And when you stop repeating the pattern, your life begins to change. Now I want you to think about something else. How many times have you survived something you were certain you could not survive? Think about the breakup, the financial crisis, the betrayal, the rejection, the season of loneliness, the disappointment, the opportunity you lost, the person you thought you could never live without. You survived. Maybe you did not come out untouched. Maybe you came out with scars. But you came out. And scars do not mean you are broken. They mean something happened and you healed enough to keep living. Your scars can become evidence. Evidence that you are capable of surviving difficult chapters. So when the next challenge appears, do not immediately assume it is the end. Remember your history. You have already lived through things that once looked impossible. And there is something beautiful about realizing that. You stop begging every storm to disappear. You start believing you can walk through storms without losing yourself. That is maturity. That is strength. That is faith. And perhaps that is what your current season is building inside you. Not a life where nothing ever goes wrong, but a life where everything going wrong no longer destroys your sense of who you are. You become steady. You become grounded. You become difficult to manipulate. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop explaining every decision. You stop living according to other people's expectations. You begin to understand that peace is not something you find when everyone approves of you. Peace is something you develop when you stop requiring everyone to approve of you. And that freedom is worth everything. So, tonight, I want you to release 3 things. Release the need to know exactly how everything will happen. Release the need to control every person and every outcome. And release the belief that your current struggle is a prediction of your future. You don't know what tomorrow will bring, neither do I. But you can enter tomorrow differently. You can enter it with courage. You can enter it with wisdom. You can enter it with an open heart. And most importantly, you can enter it without assuming that the worst is waiting for you. Maybe something good is waiting. Maybe an opportunity you cannot see yet. Maybe a conversation. Maybe healing. Maybe a new friendship. Maybe a new direction. Maybe simply a version of yourself that finally feels at peace. You don't need to know which one. You just need to stay open. And if you believe in God, trust that your inability to see the entire picture does not mean there is no picture. You are standing too close to the canvas. Step back. Take a breath. Give the process time. The same season that made you cry may one day become the season you thank God for. The same delay that frustrated you may eventually reveal what it protected you from. The same closed door that broke your heart may become the reason you found a better path. You cannot see all of that today, and that is okay. You are not required to. Your responsibility is today. Take care of today. Do what you know is right today. Forgive what you can forgive today. Rest when you need rest today. Make the call today. Set the boundary today. Take the first step today. Pray today. Then let tomorrow arrive when it arrives. Chosen one, I want you to hear this final message with your whole heart. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified because your journey looks different from everyone else's. You are not failing because your timeline does not match somebody else's. Stop comparing your chapter 5 to somebody else's chapter 15. You do not know what they survived to get where they are. And they do not know what you have survived to get here. Your path is your path. Your timing is your timing. Your growth is your growth. And there is no prize for arriving exhausted. Walk wisely. Walk patiently. Walk with faith. If you need to cry, cry. If you need help, ask for it. If you need rest, rest. If you need to start over, start over. Starting over does not mean your previous effort was wasted. It means you are choosing a better direction with the wisdom you gained, and that wisdom is valuable. You are valuable. Your life is valuable. Your future is valuable. Do not allow one painful chapter to convince you that the entire book is hopeless. The story is still being written. There are pages you have never seen. There are people you have never met. There are opportunities you have not encountered. There are lessons you have not learned. There are mornings you have not experienced. There are reasons to keep going that you cannot see from where you are standing today, so hold on. Not desperately, purposefully. Keep going, not because you have every answer, but because you do not need every answer to take the next step. And when you wake up tomorrow, do not immediately reach for your worries. Before you check the news, before you check your phone, before you start thinking about everything you have to fix, take one moment. Take a breath, look around, and remind yourself, I made it through yesterday. I can handle today. Then do the next right thing. That is enough. And if this message found you during a difficult season, maybe you needed the reminder that you are not the only person struggling quietly. There are people all around you, carrying invisible burdens. So become someone who brings peace instead of pressure. Become someone who listens. Become someone who encourages. Become someone who remembers what it felt like to be hurting and unseen. Your pain can make you bitter, or it can make you compassionate. Choose compassion. Your disappointment can make you closed, or it can make you wiser. Choose wisdom. Your waiting can make you hopeless, or it can teach you patience. Choose patience. Your past can become your prison, or it can become your testimony. Choose your testimony. And one day you may look back and realize that you were not being buried. You were being planted. The darkness around you was not the end. It was simply the place where roots were growing. And when the right season came, what had been developing quietly beneath the surface finally became visible. So don't give up, just because you cannot see the results yet. Don't abandon yourself because life feels uncertain. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Rest, think, pray, learn, move forward. And trust that the future does not have to look like the past. You have permission to believe that better days are possible. You have permission to hope again. You have permission to smile again. You have permission to dream again. You have permission to live without constantly expecting something terrible to happen. The chapter you are in may be difficult, but it is still only a chapter, and chosen one. Chapters change, seasons change, people change, circumstances change. You change. Nothing remains exactly the same forever. So let this be the moment when you stop defining your future by your pain. Let this be the moment when you stop treating your waiting as evidence that nothing is happening. Let this be the moment when you decide that even without knowing exactly how the story unfolds, you will keep moving one day at a time, one prayer at a time, one decision at a time, one breath at a time. And when that day comes when you finally understand why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain opportunities disappeared, and why certain prayers took longer than you expected, I hope you remember this moment. You were never forgotten. You were becoming. You were learning. You were healing. You were growing. And even when you could not see the path, you were still moving forward. So lift your head, take another breath, wipe away the tears if you need to, and step into tomorrow without demanding that it prove itself to you first. You don't need to know everything. You just need enough courage for the next step. And if you believe God is still writing your story, write, "I trust the process" in the comments. Not because you have no questions, not because everything is easy, but because you are choosing hope while the story is still unfolding. Your best days are not automatically behind you. Your story is not finished. Your purpose has not disappeared. And this difficult season does not get to decide how your story ends. Keep walking, keep growing, keep believing. The dawn does not ask the darkness for permission before it arrives. And neither will your next season. You may not see it yet, but keep moving toward the light.